First speaker for this session is Kyra Hammond, who is a psychology major and is also finishing a philosophy certificate in the philosophy department. Her paper is entitled Chasing Objectivity, a Defense of Moral Objectivity.
My paper is a meta-ethical analysis of moral objectivity, and I think I have a pretty interesting way of going about it, but I want to start by asking you guys a serious question. So if you leave here today and you didn't take a selfie, did you actually come here? Yes or no? What? Were you really here? If you leave and you didn't take a selfie, you didn't take a picture, were you actually here?
Now you're making me think of questions like, if I walk out of this building and what I don't realize is that I was created right as I walked out of that building, but I have the memory of being here. Was I really here?
It's pretty similar to that. Yeah, so what would you say? Like, if you take a picture, are you here or no?
No, if I was created 5 minutes ago. I mean, for the selfie thing, yeah, I was here. For reality didn't exist until 5 seconds ago, and this is all some weird memory of mine. No, I wasn't really here.
Okay, well, can I ask who says yes? Who was here even if you got a picture or not? If you say yes, I was here, whether or not, you guys raise your hands. If you say yes, chances are you see some things objectively. This means you know that even if you didn't take a selfie, that you would be here no matter what. No picture can define your existence. You understand that you are an object that exists regardless whether or not it is photographed. Objectivity is generally defined as the existence of objects regardless of our perception or belief of them. If you said no, chances are you see things kind of subjectively, meaning that observation of the object is really important to you. You need to see it before you believe it. And that seems like a stance that many of us take sometimes in so many different ways. Subjectivity attributes reality only to the things that we can observe and perceive. How does this apply to ethics? Well, meta-ethical philosophy examines whether some ethical issues of right or wrong can be given a truth value, and things absolutely good or are they absolutely bad? This is objective morality. Some of the most popular and controversial moral dilemmas, like the topic of abortion, euthanasia, capital punishment, and climate change justice, are seen as having factual answers that the right or wrong thing is if objectivism is correct. In this paper, I will demonstrate that such an objective morality does exist, and since it does exist, there are facts about what is right and wrong in ethics. Moral subjectivism is becoming increasingly popular amongst the growing generations, and I admit that I too fancied it for a while. The appeal of subjectivism was just so attractive to me. I can avoid as much conflict as possible in order to be respectful of everyone's beliefs and their experience. If I told you all that logic is the best class ever, some of you would agree with me, and some of you would disagree with me, and even shudder in disgust at the mention of the word logic. But you all wouldn't condemn me for it. You'd either say you agree or you disagree, but still be okay with my truth because you already know you have your own truth and you'll stand by that. Here's another reason why I like subjectivism so much. Subjectivism allowed me to always be right. And that's the best thing ever. If my truth is a result of my own observation, then no one can tell me I'm wrong. They can't tell me I'm wrong if I say logic is the best class because my experience makes that true for me. In Russ Schaefer Lando's Fundamentals of Ethics, Lando suggests that morality is a human construct and did not exist before us. Subjectivism is easy to accept because I would never have to face moral scrutiny for preferring purple over green or preferring Barack Obama over Donald Trump. Because I'm always justified in my beliefs on the standard that I believe what is right and wrong. Soon, however, I was confronted with the problems that arise from this theory as they become more obvious. The most convincing argument against my view is that subjectivism implies that individuals are morally infallible, even if their moral truths are based on pure emotion and experience. Who would I be to tell someone that they're wrong to shoot up a school? or commit suicide, or own slaves. As long as they feel this way, they're justified according to subjectivism. This is because subjectivism refutes the idea that moral facts exist because morals are not objects, like you and I, that exist in the real world. They would reject the idea that anyone who came to this conference really came if they did not see your selfie posted on social media, and they would argue that the only way to know it happened was to see it for themselves. A response to this, this is a hard argument. I'm just going to let you guys tell me what you think. Okay. A response to this would be the fifth and final argument in St. Thomas Aquinas' 5 proofs for the existence of God. St. Aquinas was not only a thoughtful philosopher, he was a Catholic priest who offered his 5 proofs as a measure to have an objective appeal to non-Catholics and even atheists. All 5 proofs are truly interesting and really thought-provoking, so I don't have time to go over all of them, so I'm just going to go over the teleological argument and how that can be used in showing that objective moral laws do exist, and since these ethics exist in reality and serve a specific function in society, and this implies the existence of a standard good of ethics. Okay, so for the sake of argument, I will use an argument by analogy inspired by British philosopher William Paley. Before I begin, I would like to start with the assumption that ethics is something that is real and exists in the world. The claim is hard to deny, as we are all currently at a conference speaking about ethics. We have procedures that have to be followed in order to meet the perceived ethical standards in some industries, such as client-doctor confidentiality and equal opportunity employment. If ethics did not exist, none of these measures would be in place. Now that we can safely assume that ethics exists, let's talk about other things that exist in the world. The chairs exist, this podium exists, our bodies exist. These chairs and this podium, we already know were made by some designer. Let's hope this designer didn't throw them together in a sloppy way. The only reason the chair exists to begin with is to be sat on. And if you can't sit on it, then it's not a good chair. But if you're sitting on it, your chair is perfect. Okay. You can apply this argument to any existing object in the room right now and know that anything you can see was carefully designed to carry out its purpose. However, it gets a little bit more complicated when you start to apply it to the things that you cannot see but know are real. Your heart beating, for example. You can't see it, but it still serves a very important purpose by keeping you alive. The heart is actually significantly more complex in design and function than a chair. We accept that someone intelligent designed the chair for us to sit on, but can we easily accept that our hearts were designed by an intelligent designer for giving life? Or how about ethical standards of right and wrong? Some people call this intelligent designer God, but don't run away. Let's look at this syllogism. 1, everything in existence serves some purpose. 2, things that serve a specific purpose, must have been designed to do so. 3, if morality exists in reality, which we have agreed that this is true, then it must serve some purpose and must have been deliberately designed by an intelligent creator. Therefore, subjectivism's claims of no moral objective standards cannot be true on the ground that morality exists and as a result was created with the intention of serving a purpose. If the subjectivist is correct, ethics could not exist because they do not believe that our moral knowledge can exist beyond us. This argument, too, has been met with scrutiny, as the major concern is that not all things seem to serve a purpose or don't serve the purpose that they were meant to. And this is for the teleological argument. A famous example is that hands were meant for picking up food and holding children and touching. It's hard to believe that a designer would design these hands to pick your nose and do other nasty stuff like that. I would like to briefly respond to the objection that claims some things don't serve any purpose. The problem with this objection is that just because it doesn't appear to have a purpose doesn't mean that it has no purpose. Think about the old clothes you throw away. They may not seem to serve their purpose because they may be torn or damaged, but is it not possible for someone to make a pair of gloves out of your seemingly useless sweatshirt? The teleological argument is one way to show that moral laws do indeed exist. We can now take a shot at understanding objective morality by considering this. Syllogism by Ralph McLerney. 1. To achieve good, you must be consistent with God's will. And we'll take God as the intelligent designer for the sake of this argument. Naturally, everyone wants to achieve good, and therefore everyone is bound to do what is consistent with God's will. An example of being consistent with God's will, according to the teleological argument, is having a functioning heart. If the heart works how it should, it's good. If not, then it's not good. Applying this to ethics, if an act is in line with God's will, then it is good because it's fully serving its purpose. Let's consider this example when applied to ethics. An act is bad when it contradicts its own design. So if a woman's body is designed to carry a baby, any act that contradicts that would be seen as morally wrong in the eyes of the teleologist. Regardless of what anyone feels about what ought and what ought not to be, again, ethics is about what is right, not who is right. I will ask all of you to consider the topic of abortion in this way for 1 second. From this view, is it possible that the act of abortion could be fundamentally wrong because it inhibits the purpose of the mother's body and the fetus's purpose of becoming a living thing? Although there may be many good reasons to go against your physical and moral design and purpose, it doesn't always mean that the act itself is positively right. Excuse me. Finally, I will defend my assertion that sticking to this duty is of utmost importance and imperative for the unification of people around truth in a just world. The best argument to defend my claim is a categorical imperative from Immanuel Kant's deontology. The idea of the golden rule or categorical imperative is that one must treat others how they want to be treated. More specifically, act in a way that can be consistent with the universal law. Kant believed that a social system where the basis of morals was objective and that a sovereign should not be the creator of this law, but more like the enforcer of the law. One of the main issues with this argument is that one may have to lie to prevent something bad from happening. But according to Kant, in order for peace to work, we must be concerned with consistency and sticking to the status quo. A theory I found very interesting that is in addition to Kant's categorical imperative that has met a lot of scrutiny from anyone who I've showed it to, but I'm showing it to you guys today. It's the idea of Kantian intuitionism, and that's a combination of intuitionism, which is an epistemological theory, and Kantian's deontology. It provides a way that we derive these objective truths about universal law and implement them into our moral code. This theory, in short, asserts that the way we can derive universal law is through our intuition. Intuition is a self-evident process and cannot be deduced from natural laws, so it cannot be proved. It is believed that everyone has intuition, which informs them of objective moral truths and laws that we have been speaking of. The question now is, how is this possible? It has been argued that this theory is not practical, and I agree. It can only be possible if no other beliefs or convictions cloud our vision of our true intuition. Otherwise, our intuitions are subjective still. Also, subjectivists will argue that this cannot be true because truth is created by everyone individually. I'm not offering intuitionism as a practical solution to this because intuitionism can be very unreliable, inconsistent, and some even question whether or not it exists. In all, although intuitionism is a famous school of thought that has a home in ethics and epistemology, don't know where the last page went. Okay. So I'm just going to conclude this myself. So what I'm saying is that there is an objective moral law. There's answers to what we believe, and these answers can come from our intuition, but we're too obscured by so many things. We're obscured by our egos, if you will, our beliefs, our convictions. But just because we are very strong in some things that we believe doesn't mean that it's true. So, there we go.
Thank you.